For nearly 3 decades, whispers of a hidden chapter in Meghan Markle's life have lingered in the shadows. Secrets of a daughter the world never knew. Now, the silence shatters. Joe Giuliano, the man rumored to be Meghan's first husband, has allegedly released photos that could rewrite everything we thought we knew. Faces, smiles, and uncanny resemblances have surfaced online, igniting a storm of speculation and intrigue. So, who is this mysterious daughter? And why did Joe decide to share them now? The ghost in Meghan Markle's story. For almost 30 years, Joe Giuliano was a ghost in Meghan Markle's story, a man whose name lingered only in hushed conversations, a shadow rarely acknowledged, quietly erased from every chapter of her public life. To the world, he barely existed, an almost mythical figure who seemed to vanish the moment Meghan began her ascent from a hopeful young actress in Los Angeles to a globally recognized star. For decades, fans and media alike speculated about him, weaving rumors, imagining secrets, yet no confirmation ever surfaced. He was the unseen figure in a narrative meticulously polished for public consumption, the invisible presence lurking behind Meghan's journey, as if carefully edited out to protect the image of a young woman on the rise. But now, whispers from sources allegedly close to the Giuliano family suggest that Joe may finally be stepping out of the shadows. After years of silence, after decades of rumors left unverified, these insiders hint that he has revealed information so startling, so potentially explosive, that it could reshape the public's understanding of Meghan Markle's early life. Long before the cameras, before her breakout acting roles, before the royal wedding captivated the world, there may have been chapters of her life hidden from the spotlight, stories that have remained locked away, silent and unseen, until now. For years, Joe's presence in Meghan's history was almost folkloric, a figure referenced in whispers, a name that seemed erased from every official record, a moment in time scrubbed clean. His connection to Meghan was never denied outright, but it was never confirmed either, leaving a space in the narrative of her life. This vacuum allowed speculation to grow unchecked, fueling the imagination of fans, gossip columns, and tabloid headlines alike. Who was Joe Giuliano, really? How serious was their relationship? Did it end quietly, or was there more to the story than anyone knew? These questions lingered unanswered, forming a shadowy outline behind Meghan's well-documented rise to fame. Now, the silence appears to be breaking. Those familiar with the Giuliano family claim that Joe has stepped forward, revealing details, possibly photographs, possibly personal accounts, that were meant to stay hidden forever. If these reports are accurate, the information could cast an entirely new light on Meghan's life, offering insights into a period that has remained a mystery for decades. It is a chapter untouched by public scrutiny, a private story now teetering on the brink of exposure. What makes this moment so compelling is the possibility that the truth may finally fill the gaps left by rumor and speculation. The quiet, elusive figure who seemed to vanish into the background of Meghan Markle's life may be about to tell a story that changes everything. For the first time in nearly 30 years, the world could get a glimpse of the man who once stood alongside her, and perhaps the secrets of a chapter in Meghan's life that has remained shrouded in mystery. Long before Hollywood, long before the royal family, long before global headlines. Whether Joe Giuliano's revelations will shock, surprise, or even redefine what the world thinks it knows about Meghan Markle remains to be seen. But one thing is certain: after decades of silence, the shadow is finally moving into the light, and the story that has long been whispered behind closed doors may soon be impossible to ignore. Joe, long thought to be Meghan's first love, steps out of the shadows. But what is he really after? And how will his actions ripple across the world? Now let's uncover the image that could finally reveal Meghan's secret daughter. Leaked photos spark a global question. For decades, Joe Giuliano existed in Meghan Markle's story almost like a ghost, a figure whispered about, never confirmed, and carefully erased from every chapter of her public life. But now, insiders claim that he has finally stepped forward, sharing a set of photographs that could unlock a secret hidden away for nearly 30 years. According to sources close to the Giuliano family, these images may reveal a truth that was never intended to be seen by the outside world. A secret that could alter everything people thought they knew about Meghan's early years. The photographs reportedly feature a young woman in her late 20s, with dark, flowing hair, gentle brown eyes, and a smile that seems uncannily familiar to Meghan herself. Those who have glimpsed the images say the resemblance is impossible to ignore. Even the most hardened skeptics, who once dismissed all whispers as hearsay, are reportedly doing double takes, taken aback by the uncanny likeness. Unlike earlier rumors and unverified claims that floated online for years, these photos provide tangible, visual proof, faces staring back at the viewer, conveying a story that words alone could never capture. One image, according to reports, depicts the young woman standing outside a quiet, cozy cafe in Chicago, holding a small child in her arms. The way she carries herself, the tilt of her head, the soft, almost knowing half-smile, all reportedly mirror Meghan's own expressions from her early acting days, when she was stepping into the public eye for the first time. Every detail, the curve of her jaw, the alignment of her eyes, the natural ease in her posture, echoes Meghan's early mannerisms, creating a chilling sense of familiarity. Those who have studied the photo closely say it is impossible to dismiss as a coincidence. The young woman appears to carry both the essence of Meghan and subtle traces of Joe Giuliano, forming a likeness that seems to bridge two lives once kept deliberately apart. What makes this development particularly compelling is the tangible nature of the evidence. For years, the narrative of Meghan's early life included shadows and speculation, stories told in hushed tones without corroboration. But now, instead of whispers, there are faces that reportedly tell a hidden story, one that was meant to remain locked within private family walls. The fact that these images are reportedly circulating, even quietly, challenges long-held assumptions, compelling observers to confront questions they never thought they would ask. If these claims are accurate, the photographs may represent more than just a family secret. They could reveal a hidden chapter in Meghan's life, one involving a child she never publicly acknowledged and a private existence carefully guarded by those closest to her. The implications of such images extend far beyond mere resemblance. They touch on the narratives of privacy, secrecy, and the lengths to which a family might go to protect both a child and a rising star. In essence, these photographs are not just pictures, they are windows into a hidden history, a story frozen in time, waiting to be understood and perhaps finally revealed. The image Joe released shows striking similarities to both him and Meghan. But does it prove they had a daughter? And why did the world remain unaware of her for decades? Now, let's uncover the hidden life of a young woman raised in the shadows, a daughter, hidden in plain sight. The young woman, whose very existence has been whispered about in hushed tones for decades, allegedly grew up under a carefully constructed veil of anonymity. To the world, she was known by a different surname, a name that shielded her from prying eyes and hidden truths. Within the quiet walls of the Giuliano household, she was raised with love and attention. Yet her life was a carefully rewritten story, one that concealed the reality of her origins. Every birthday celebrated, every milestone marked, carried with it the unspoken knowledge that she was living someone else's story, though she could not yet understand it. Neighbors who occasionally glimpsed her life remember a quiet, gentle child, the sort of girl who smiled shyly at the world and offered a kind word to anyone who crossed her path. She moved through life politely, carefully, yet there was always an air of something unspoken, a subtle weight she bore without knowing why. It was as if she sensed, in some deep and intangible way, that part of her story had been written elsewhere, far beyond the sunny streets she called home. That she carried an invisible burden, a secret not meant to be hers to carry, was never lost on those who saw her fleeting expressions of thoughtfulness and melancholy. If the murmurs circulating behind closed doors are accurate, Her entire understanding of family, love, and identity was built on a foundation of carefully hidden truths. She believed herself to be the child of the people who nurtured her daily, never suspecting that her biological mother had stepped into an entirely new life thousands of miles away, a life far removed from quiet streets and suburban homes. That mother, by all accounts, eventually rose into the rarefied circles of fame, fortune, and even royalty, living in a world that seemed as unreachable as a dream from the perspective of a small, sheltered home. The contrast between the lives, one marked by secrecy and quiet devotion, the other by grandeur and public attention, only deepens the intrigue. The Giuliano household, for all its warmth, was also a place of careful concealment, a sanctuary built to protect and to hide. The girl was loved, yes, but that love came with invisible walls, an understanding that some truths must remain unspoken. Every embrace, every bedtime story, and every word of encouragement was framed by this delicate balance of affection and secrecy. Now, decades later, those walls are cracking. The emergence of previously unseen photographs has punctured the long-held silence, revealing glimpses of a young woman whose resemblance to her famous mother is uncanny. The world is left with a question that refuses to fade. Who is she really? And as the images circulate, carrying with them the weight of revelation and curiosity, a story once hidden in quiet corners and hushed whispers is forced into the light, challenging everyone to reconsider the meaning of family, identity, and the secrets that shape a life. Her true identity has been carefully hidden as she grows, making it almost impossible to recognize her real self. But what circumstances led to her existence? Was there a marriage between her biological parents? And whose reputation required protecting every detail of her life? Let's uncover the truth. The vanishing marriage. For years, whispers and quiet reports have suggested that Meghan Markle and Joe Giuliano may have exchanged vows in a small, nondescript Las Vegas chapel sometime in the mid-1990s. Far from the flash of cameras and the relentless gaze of the public eye, the ceremony, if it truly took place, was intimate, private, and deliberately hidden from the world. There were no announcements in the press, no scandalous tabloid photographs, only the hushed solemnity of two lives intertwining, if only for a brief and fleeting moment, existed behind those unassuming chapel doors. Yet, if this secret marriage did occur, it was as short-lived as it was concealed. Sources close to the story claim that soon after the union, an annulment swept through the legal system, wiping the marriage from official records entirely. Unlike a divorce, which formally acknowledges that a marriage once existed, an annulment functions almost like a legal eraser, removing the union as though it had never occurred. The vows spoken, the promises shared, and the tender first steps of a new life together. Every trace vanished, leaving only a blank space where a private chapter of history should have been. Insiders reveal that this abrupt disappearance was anything but ordinary. It wasn't mere paperwork quietly processed behind closed doors. It was a carefully planned, deliberate maneuver. The annulment may have acted as a protective shield, safeguarding Meghan's rising public image at a pivotal moment when her life was stepping into the spotlight, ensuring her private past remained hidden from curious eyes and public scrutiny. More intriguingly, some speculate it may have been intended to hide something far more consequential than a fleeting marriage, possibly the existence of a child whose identity could have reshaped public perception entirely. Viewed this way, the annulment becomes not merely a legal maneuver, but a strategic move, a way to close a door on a story the world was never meant to witness. The notion that a marriage, along with its potential family legacy, could be erased so completely is astonishing. Imagine a bond, the fragile beginnings of a life shared, removed so thoroughly that no official record remains, leaving only whispers, speculation, and faint memories. Friends, neighbors, and casual acquaintances who may have glimpsed the couple in those quiet months have little more to offer than conjecture. Every intimate detail, every private smile, every shared moment, all of it seemingly swept away, leaving a tantalizing void where answers should be. Decades later, the idea of this vanished union casts a shadow of intrigue over Meghan's public narrative. The possibility that a secret marriage existed, and that it may have included the beginnings of a hidden family, raises questions that refuse to be ignored. How much of her early life was carefully curated or rewritten to protect her future ambitions? What private relationships, stories, and sacrifices have been buried beneath layers of discretion? Now, as long-buried whispers resurface and hidden photographs emerge, the world is forced to confront a chapter that disappeared, a marriage erased, and a family that may have existed quietly in the shadows, just beyond reach of public view. Reports suggest the marriage that led to the child did happen, though it was quietly dissolved. But who can truly confirm it? Can their account be trusted? And why was every detail deliberately kept from the media? Let's find out. Meghan Markle's first marriage revisited. In a candid moment with the Daily Mail, Meghan Markle's father, Thomas Markle, appeared to hint if she had stayed with her first husband, Joe Giuliano. Their brief union, often overshadowed by Meghan's later fame as an actress and eventually as a duchess, reportedly lasted less than 3 months. Though fleeting, this early marriage has become a topic of curiosity, especially as whispers about Meghan's private life continue to surface. Despite its brevity, the marriage ended quickly with an annulment rather than a divorce. Legally, this meant it was as though the union never officially existed, erasing almost all public traces of their time together. And yet, even with this short-lived chapter behind her, the memory of Joe Giuliano and what could have been seems to linger in the background, quietly shaping the narrative of Meghan's early adult years. Thomas Markle's comments, though carefully measured, hint at a nostalgic what if. Could Meghan's path have been different if this first relationship had lasted longer? Or perhaps if she had taken a different approach to the life she ultimately chose? Thomas didn't stop at reflections or implications. He openly acknowledged that while he may not have agreed with every choice Meghan made, his love for his daughter remains unwavering. "My door is always open to her," he told reporters, emphasizing a father's enduring care despite past disagreements. These words offer a glimpse into the complicated dynamics of family, especially one navigating both private struggles and a life under intense public scrutiny. Thomas's declaration underscores that, for him, love outweighs judgment, and the bond between parent and child can persist even amid conflict and controversy. "I love her, and that will never change. I love all my children," he added, expanding his sentiment to include his broader family. In these statements, there is a mixture of vulnerability and steadfastness, revealing a father who may have wished for different circumstances, yet remains committed to supporting his children unconditionally. It's a reminder that families, even those linked to royalty or celebrity, experience the same tensions, disappointments, and reconciliations as any other. Thomas Markle's reflections also provide a humanizing context to Meghan's life story, a narrative often dominated by headlines, scandals, and global attention. Beneath the surface, there is a young woman who, like many, navigated love, family expectations, and life-altering decisions in her formative years. While her union with Joe Giuliano was brief and largely obscured by time and public memory, it remains an early chapter in the journey that ultimately led her to international recognition and her high-profile marriage to Prince Harry. Thomas's words capture both the complexity and simplicity of familial love. Even amid disagreements, even after brief missteps, love endures. They also invite the public to reflect on the untold stories that shape a person's life. Stories of youthful decisions, fleeting relationships, and the unconditional support that parents strive to offer. For Meghan Markle, this chapter with Joe Giuliano may have been short, but it is part of a larger tapestry of experiences that have contributed to the woman she has become. Thomas Markle hinted that he might have wished his daughter had stayed with her first husband, possibly because of the child they shared. But are there more clues pointing to a deeper controversy? Now let's explore the Giuliano family's pivotal role in safeguarding Meghan Markle's hidden past. Hidden timelines and silent sacrifices. Adding layers of complexity to this story are puzzling inconsistencies in Meghan Markle's publicly shared timeline. On paper, her birth year, the years she attended various schools, and even her college enrollment dates appear to shift depending on the source. Yearbooks, alumni records, and early photographs suggest a timeline that doesn't always match the biography presented to the public. These discrepancies, whether intentional or the result of oversight, create a subtle but undeniable sense that her early life was carefully curated, edited, and, at times, rewritten to fit a narrative more suitable for the world's gaze. Every adjustment, every omission, seems to hint at a story that was meant to stay out of sight, a story that belonged to the private corners of her life rather than the glare of Hollywood or the royal stage. For the Giuliano family, whose loyalty and discretion are well known, these inconsistencies were more than minor curiosities. They were warning signs. To them, every shifted date or missing detail in Meghan's timeline was a potential clue that the truth of her early life was being obscured, perhaps for reasons of ambition, protection, or personal reinvention. The Giulianos had always been fiercely protective of the young woman they had welcomed into their home, and their vigilance extended beyond mere parental care. It was rooted in a deep understanding that the world could be cruel to those who carried secrets too large to explain. The situation grew even more complicated when news of a pregnancy reportedly surfaced. For the Giuliano family, the revelation demanded a solution that balanced responsibility with discretion. Their choice, though pragmatic, was deeply poignant. They would raise the child themselves. The child, born into a household of love and careful protection, would grow under the guidance of the Giulianos, safe from public scrutiny and the potential chaos that exposure could bring. Meanwhile, Meghan was free to follow her ambitions, to move further into the bright lights of Hollywood and toward the public life she had envisioned for herself. Each career milestone, every audition and film role, drew her further away from the hidden past that lingered just beyond the reach of cameras and headlines. The arrangement, while undoubtedly made with love and consideration, carried an emotional weight. A child growing up apart from her biological mother, even under the care of a devoted family, creates questions about identity, belonging, and the quiet sacrifices made behind the scenes. For Meghan, each step forward in her career seemed to require leaving pieces of her history behind, trusting the Giulianos to protect what was most vulnerable and unseen. For the family, every protective act was a quiet struggle, a balancing of devotion, secrecy, and the awareness that the world may one day uncover what had been carefully hidden. In this delicate intersection of ambition, secrecy, and family loyalty, the story of Meghan, the Giulianos, and the child they raised becomes a tale of contrasts. Public fame and private life exist in constant tension, and the inconsistencies in the timeline serve as subtle reminders that the truth is rarely as straightforward as it appears. Behind the glitz, the photographs, and the public persona lies a story of quiet guardianship, unspoken sacrifices, and a hidden chapter of life that few have ever glimpsed, and even fewer truly understand. The Giuliano family played a crucial role in keeping the child's identity hidden for decades. But now that whispers of the truth are surfacing, what became of the daughter left behind? Who is she today, and how does her story intertwine with Meghan Markle's? Now let's uncover the secrets Meghan Markle tried so hard to leave buried. Secrets awakened. Truth surfaces after 3 decades. For 3 decades, the Giuliano family maintained an unwavering silence, keeping a chapter of the past carefully locked away. Their quiet vigilance was more than discretion. It was a shield designed to protect both Meghan Markle and the child she allegedly left behind. Every glance, every story told, and every milestone in the child's life was carefully guarded, as though the family had taken on the impossible task of preserving innocence while holding back the world's prying eyes. Theirs was a devotion both loving and heavy, the kind of loyalty that asks one to live in the shadows so others can move freely into the light. But now, that decades-long silence has been shattered. Leaked photographs, appearing seemingly out of nowhere, have pierced the carefully constructed barrier of privacy. The images, are more than simple snapshots. They are fragments of a story that had been intentionally hidden, windows into lives that were meant to remain unseen. The faces captured in these photos challenge every narrative that has been quietly upheld over the years, raising questions that were assumed to be buried and forgotten. Who is this young woman? How does she fit into a story that millions believe they already know? And, perhaps most compellingly, what became of the daughter whose life was quietly molded by the Giuliano family, while Meghan pursued fame, fortune, and eventually the rarefied corridors of royalty? For those who lived with the secrecy, the revelation of these images must feel like a fracture in the very foundation of their carefully constructed world. The Giulianos, fiercely loyal and deeply private, had spent 30 years navigating the delicate balance between love and discretion. Every act of guidance, every word of reassurance was imbued with the understanding that the world's gaze could be unforgiving, and that the lives they were protecting were fragile, precious, and vulnerable. Their silence was not emptiness, it was action, a deliberate choice to shield the child from exposure while allowing Meghan to carve her path without the burdens of the past weighing visibly upon her. Yet now, with the photographs emerging, the past refuses to stay buried. These images act like a mirror held up to a story that the world thought it had already understood, forcing a confrontation with truths long kept in the shadows. Questions arise that are impossible to ignore. Who is this young woman, raised quietly out of the spotlight? How has she grown and shaped her own identity under the care of the Giuliano family? And how does her life intersect with the meteoric rise of Meghan Markle, from the streets of Chicago to Hollywood, and then to the dazzling, scrutinized world of royalty? The story, once sealed by loyalty and discretion, is clawing its way into the light. It reminds us that no matter how far someone ascends, through fame, fortune, or power, the past has a way of returning quietly, insistently, and often without warning. What was hidden for decades now emerges not only as a tale of secrecy, but also as a testament to the protective, almost sacrificial devotion of a family determined to shield a child from a world that might not have been kind. This is more than a story of revelation. It is a story of loyalty, love, and the enduring consequences of choices made in the shadows. And as the photographs circulate, they challenge the world to reconsider everything it thinks it knows about identity, family, and the hidden chapters that quietly shape the lives of those we think we understand. The past, once safely tucked away, is no longer silent. It has returned with a quiet, undeniable force, and the world can no longer look away. So, what do you think about these leaked images? Could it be real, or is Meghan being framed? We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.